Welcome everyone. Let me just get things started. Share my screen. Great. Thanks everyone for turning out on this our demo day for June 2022. We just apologize for what took place on Tuesday due to unforeseen circumstances. We were not able to host it, but today we are back in full force to give you another demo day, and we have something pretty exciting for those who have been waiting since Tuesday. As usual, my name is Tremaine Buchanan, and I'll be your event organizer and host for today. If you don't know who I am, I'm just a software engineer that gives his time here and there to assist with the community, Jamaica developers. Also, I lecture and I do software engineering full time. Also on the call is another event organizer, but I'll consider him the co-founder and lead of OSU. He's a full stack engineer, O'Shane Bailey. We don't have the other members. Latifa is not on the call today. Latifa is one of the biggest driving administrative force behind this community. And she does a lot of things behind the scenes. I want to take the opportunity to shout out our sponsors, OSU, Particular Presence, and Vertis Technologies for their continued support throughout the many conferences and events that we have put on thus far. And also shout out to those who are joining us on YouTube. You can talk about the event, get more persons on board, because we aim to give you the content around what is going on in the developer community, what's happening in technology, and try to bring technology to the doorsteps of persons who have not had the opportunity to dive in, because I think we are in, we are in the technological revolution. And I believe this community, Jamaican developers community, is at the forefront in sharing that information to the masses. I'm just doing a quick check on our participants, and right on cue, our main speaker this evening is now on board. He is Rhys Stewarts, co-founder at Auchindown, database administrator and spatial data architect. So that's a mouthful for me. And it seems as if Rhys Stewarts is wearing a lot of different hats. So I just want to ask you guys to give him a warm welcome. But before I ask him to present, Rhys Stewarts, are you able or ready to present, or do you want us to give you another minute to set up?
Yeah, 1 more minute, please.
Okay, sure, no problem. In the interim, whilst the presentation has started, as soon as it does, just feel free to ask the questions in the chat. For those who are on YouTube, just send us a message and we will answer your questions throughout the session. So as we wait for Rhys, I want to also take the opportunity to invite those who are not volunteers as yet to become a volunteer to try and spread awareness of technology throughout Jamaica and possibly and hopefully throughout the Caribbean, as we try to achieve or accomplish our mission as the Jamaica Developer Group. All right, let me see. Don't think I'm missing anything else. All right, so we'll just await Rhys to join us, to share his screen and walk us through this his demo for Demo Day, June 30th, 2022. So Rhys, when you're ready, you can let me know.
All right.
All right.
Good
Rhys,
afternoon.
you can go ahead. Yes. Welcome, Rhys.
Sorry for the delay. All right, so I am Rhys Stewarts, as was previously mentioned, co-founder / CEO of Auchindown, also the head cook and bottle washer as well. I'm going to be giving a brief preview of something I've been working on that's useful in the power delivery and distribution space. So it's called the Livewire. Are you all seeing the screen, right?
Yes, we are, Rhys.
All right, great. Where to begin? So I think most are useful for a wide audience. But this is definitely not one of them. So this will be used by power distribution engineers and power companies. Nonetheless, I will give you all a brief demo of what it is. So again, it's called a Livewire. It's in, I guess, what's before beta software, alpha. It's pre-alpha. I'm hoping to have it launched, or soft launch, in the next 2 or so months. And what this allows the engineer to do, the power engineer to do, is basically to model power distribution network. So this is the login screen. Let me just sign in. And then I'll explain to you what a Livewire is, because much like the Matrix, you have to see it to understand it. Alrighty. So when you log in, you're greeted with a landing page. It's a card-based interface. On the left, you have, I guess, the main card. You can sign up and sign in. You can create new live wires. And here we have some existing live wires. And I keep saying a live wire like you all know what it is, but I'll get to that shortly. On each card, you can see the live wire's name, the live wire's owner, and a description about what each live wire is. There is some small admin functionality right here. You can share Livewire with other users. You can make a Livewire public. You can fork it, meaning you can create your own Livewire for yourself. It's akin to, I guess, Git clone for you dev people out there. And then you can delete a Livewire. Let's jump into this one. Well, actually, let me jump back out first and show you the process of creating one. So let me just delete. Cornwall. Did I spell it? Oh, corn with 2 L's. All right. So the use case, hopefully, is not really for an individual engineer to go through this process. Ideally, their company will seek to have an enterprise agreement with me or the company, and we can connect directly to their database and run a process via that means. But you can also create a Livewire like this. So we're going to create Cornwall. So that's the Livewire's name. It's based on GIS data, or Geographical Information Systems data. So this is a spatial reference ID. Don't worry about that. It's not that deep. Thank you for the description. This is a demo, the Livewire. Then you upload our data. I'm gonna find, well, where did it go? All right. So you upload your data. Alrighty. And then there is some configuration to do. Now the file is a small database, and it has 4 tables in there. We're concerned, or going to be using 2 tables. So we configure each table with a unique ID, a feeder name, and all of these things that when I'm showing you the actual Livewire. There's a phasing code. This is more configuration over here. It only has 2 tables because some of these databases are enabled, actually. Let's make sure this is all good. All right, while I'm doing this, I'll explain one thing. So in terms of power distribution, we have what's called a substation where the power for our purposes originates. And what we want to do is basically be able to model all the lines from the substation to your house. So that is what this application will be assisting with. And this, you may have noticed that some power lines have 3 sets of lines on them, some have 2, some have 1. And this phasing section here has to do with the backend of setup. All right. Alrighty, so everything looks pretty okay. So once you're finished that, you hit add participants, it does some work, hit finish, and then there is some with the data you uploaded a while ago. So depending on how much data you have, it can take anywhere from 6-7 minutes. A very small data set. So I'll just and just pop one off right quickly. I guess that's no for questions. Alrighty.
No, sorry. So
Oh,
I heard something, but you're chipping in and chipping out, so I didn't get
I'm
caught
sorry.
that. But no. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. All right, fine. Because I have a load of questions, but I'm giving the opportunity to those who are on the call to ask questions first, and then
Okay.
I will ask the questions. So I have some questions. So I'll just defer until you're ready, or do you want to field them now?
Well, I mean, I can take one or two right now.
Okay. All right. So what I would love for the persons on the call to understand, again, you mentioned some stuff about development. I'm unaware of where you are or how experienced are you. So that could be the first question. What on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your developer? I wouldn't say experience, but how versed are you in developing software?
Oh, okay. So,
okay, I'll answer that question for you. So,
hold on, O'Shane. How is it that you answer a question for the speaker?
No.
Let the speaker speak.
I can answer, Shane. I can answer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rhys.
I'm a big fan of Rhys. Sorry.
Oh, okay. All right, fine. So we're not
Yes,
fanboying
maybe
today.
a
We
bit
want the speaker
biased.
to answer. Yes, yes. So Rhys, you can go ahead.
Okay, all right. Well, it's actually finished. So I guess I'll do the questions afterwards.
Okay, sure, no problem.
So yeah, so that was how you would create a Livewire from scratch. Again, the hope is not that this is a thing you do on a regular basis. It's more for an enterprise situation where you contact me or contact the company, and then we set up a linkage between your database and our system, and we can do updates against your system on an ongoing basis. All right, so I keep mentioning this Livewire thing. I have 3 Livewires here. Let's open one of them. And what will you see? So this core is based on the application. And I had mentioned electric networks. And this will give you an exploratory view of any given network that you upload. So we break down, or to start off, because there's a wide variety of how you may store your electrical data. Livewires break down things into 3 simple concepts. There are lines and there are devices. And the devices can be broken down. Either it is a load, meaning it is consuming power. So that would most likely be like your house or a street light. There is a source where the power originates. And again, I had mentioned that this is dealing with only the distribution aspect of any given power system. A quick aside, there are 3 sections for, the power delivery or power companies. You have a generation section, a transmission section, and a distribution section. And this deals with distribution. All right, so I mentioned that we're going to distill everything down to 3 types of devices: a source, a load, and then everything else, which I call a device. If you think of a power network as a directed graph, if you all did comp-sci or mathematics, that's what this really is. So the green dots are the source. Blue dots here are devices. And these darker blue dots are loads. I mentioned that this is pre-alpha software, so I haven't fully finished fleshing out the cartography and the symbology, but that's what we'll work with for now. So each source has a name, and I'm going to click on one right here, and it's called a feeder. So this feeder is called University North, and this is the line that flows from the feeder. And if you're an engineer, for example, you can just come along and say, okay, cool, I can see where this feeder runs. Okay, cool. This is a device over here. So when you click on an item, it gives you the table name from the original database, the electrical phasing, and then there are 3 items that tells you what was in the original table. This is a tracing icon. So you can basically trace upstream or downstream from any device. And then I'll explain why that's useful for engineers. And this is your, what do I call this button? Your turn on off switch. Yeah, this way you can model power, for example. The red dots are devices that are de-energized, so power can't flow through it. So you may notice on the right-hand side, this line says University South, and over here is South Miami. So basically, this section is from one feeder, and this is from another feeder. You can also do regular map things like filter by phase and filter by tables. It's not very interesting, but that's there. Red lines are lines that are wholly de-energized, so there's no power flowing through it for one reason or another. So that's what you will see whenever you upload your Livewire. So I mentioned tracing earlier. Generally, distribution engineers want to know for any given device what's below it or what's downstream of it. So say, for example, there needs to be work done in an area. And to do work on the line, they'll usually turn a device off and de-energize the area. So you want to know, for example, okay, cool, I need to do some work on Monday at 5 p.m. If I de-energize this device, how many people are affected and for how long? So this is useful information because A, you need to inform them that they're out of power, and B, there are certain metrics that power companies need to maintain. One is called SAIDI, one is called SAIFI, which has to do with how reliable your network is. So let's pick a device. So if I hit on the trace button, I can trace upstream or downstream. And I can trace by phase. So let's try and see if this one works. All right, so this blue line is basically the entire section controlled by that device. And this list right here is basically every device controlled by the switch. So these are all service locations, which are people's houses. There's a transformer in here as well, or 2 or 3 transformers. So you can now, armed with this knowledge, excuse me, you can now, armed with this knowledge, basically inform these people that, hey, at 5 p.m. on Friday, there'll be no light for X amount of time. You can also trace upstream to find out where the feeder is in relation to the device in question. Let's zoom in a bit. All right, so we can also de-energize the device, and we can turn the power off effectively. This is not terribly useful in this example here, but I'll show you a case where it's pretty useful. Of course. I turned everything off, apparently. As I mentioned earlier, it's pre-alpha software, so let's try that again on a smaller Livewire. All right, this is Cornwall. And similar situation, red dots are open devices, the green dots are sources. So let me show you an example of where it's useful to play around with how your network is configured. So all over here is de-energized at present. So this is, which feeder is this? All right, so this is Timpani East, right? All of here is de-energized. So let us try and energize this area. All right, so now it's energized. So where was once red is now also Timpani East because it's connected to the same feeder up the road, or wherever up the road is. So you can imagine, let's say, for example, you need to do an outage or turn somebody off. You could figure out by looking at the system and say, hey, you know what? I need to turn off this section, but I can reroute power by opening these different devices or closing these different devices. So really only a small section of people are out of power at any given time. Also, there is quote-unquote protection against things that shouldn't be on the line. So for example, I'm at a junction of 2 different feeders. On the right-hand side is Timpani East. Right here is Timpani North. And you can see that the arrows point where the power flows. And this switch between them is de-energized. So power can't flow across feeders. If I were to attempt to energize the switch, then it will give me an error saying single source violation, which basically means that every device should be fed from only one source. So if you did want to, for example, send all the power of Timpani East, in that direction, you'd have to first de-energize.
Rhys, I'm not sure if we're hearing you where there's a break in transmission. Rhys, are you hearing us?
Another line, have power flowing that way.
Oh, you're back with us.
I'm
Okay, good.
okay. Yeah, I was hearing you a while ago.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
we lost transmission just now, so I think we're back in
Oh,
business.
okay.
I'm glad that we're now, your mic is now energized. Continue. Sorry, that's kind of corny.
Okay. Um, what was I saying a while ago? Right, I was basically saying that there are protections against trying to
Having multiple
energize.
stores. Yeah.
Say again, O'Shea?
No, I was saying having multiple stores where the current flows. So you have to turn off one section for you to reroute the
Okay.
energy. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. So in this example, here I've turned off a device on this feeder. So now I can actually energize this device. And then it will show the power flowing from, what is this, Timpani East throughout what was Timpani North. Yeah. So yeah, that's the general gist of it. It's as I said, a work in progress. It's pre-alpha. I'm hoping to have excuse me, hoping to have, beta quality software, or that can be used in the next 2 months or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I think, well, let me segue into the questions that I'm seeing in the chat, and I want to thank those who are asking questions. So let me jump to the questions from the latest to the earliest, no, the latest to the ones before. In regards to the mapping, is there a reason why OpenStreetMap was used over a solution like Mapbox? And this is from Jason Clark. So what was the reasoning behind choosing OpenStreet over Mapbox?
Well, we're not at the point where I don't think I need a Mapbox yet, if I might at all. The general theory or thing is that most engineers or most people using it would have a fairly good lay of the land geographically. Also, just figured this was easiest to use at the time.
Okay.
I'm not sure if there's a benefit to using Mapbox over OpenStreetMaps, given my use case.
Okay. All right, no problem. All right, so Mark Anthony Jones, I'm coming to you. I'm just going to address our next question by Jason Clark. Speaking on design choice, is there a reason why the glass morphism was selected for the UI? So I think this is just, I think from where I sit or what I understand about glass morphism is like a new trend in user interface design. Maybe something similar to neomorphism or something like that. I don't want to chamber or to mix up the terms, but basically, why did you choose to have this glass looking user interface for the admin?
All right, so that question is like asking a 7-year-old to explain astrophysics. It just looked cool. There was no real reason why I chose it. My CSS skills are limited. After fiddling around for around an hour, I got something I liked, and I stuck with it.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. All right. Let me address now Mark Anthony Jones. You can go ahead, Mark Anthony.
Hey everyone. So you mentioned that the engineer see the are open or closed or whatever stuff of an outage. Is there a case where you would create a feature where this app could be used by the engineers in the field? Not sure if anybody heard that.
We heard bits and pieces, but let me try to sum up what you're asking. you're asking the question whether or not this system will be accessible to field engineers.
Yeah, I'm basically asking if it would be accessible to them while they're working in the field, so they could identify where it could work.
Okay, so basically real-time access to the system during carrying out their duties.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Rhys.
Yeah.
Can you?
There's no reason why it can't be had.
Okay. All right. I
But bear
figured
in
more or
mind,
less that
when you disconnect a switch in the system, it has no bearing in real life. It's just, you know, just a model.
okay. So this is almost like a simulation, similar to if you were using a circuit, a program online that simulates a circuit.
Effectively, yeah.
For want of a better word. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Because I was trying to draw a reference with something I've used before. I believe it's either IBM or a Tinkercad is a software, an online tool that allows you to create circuits with various components, and then you can, I think you can breadboard the circuit without actually using physical components. So I am thinking about that and trying to draw a parallel with what you would have presented. It's just looking at Jamaica or a power grid and ascertaining what will happen in a situation where if you cut power to this location, how this will be affected, and understand the flow of electricity from one node to the next. Right?
Right.
Okay. All right. I think I summed it up pretty well. So I think that answered one of the questions I had in terms of the use case, because obviously we're seeing where this can be a planning tool for a power distribution company. They can, plan ahead. So we're only made aware of power outages if we hear it on the news or we see a tweet from our main power company, JPS. So maybe this could be a part of their strategy to ensure that they communicate timely with their customers, even though they're on monopoly and they don't have a choice. But it offers an avenue into providing better customer service and better planning for outages, scheduled outages.
Yeah, and not just only that, there's a possible use case, even though the dynamics is a bit different, but possible use case for telecom companies with, of course, they'll switch on routers to supply home internet and so forth. But of course, the context of the application is a bit different, but it could also apply to telecom companies.
Okay. All right. So 2 questions from me. And again, you guys can post questions in the chat and then I'll just field the questions. Or if you want to raise your hand and, speak about it, fine. I'm going to give Ramon Spalding a chance to speak. And then I'll segue into 2 questions. Go ahead, Ramon. I hope I pronounced
good
that
afternoon.
name right.
Yeah, you pronounced it correctly. Yeah, it's Ramon.
Okay.
Good job, Rhys. Something, I'm not a electrician or have anything to do with light, but something that stood out to me was the fact that you mentioned distribution, and Shane kind of touched on it too. Will there be like an avenue? I know it's something that you're developing. Will there be an avenue for other people to use it to model distribution networks outside of just power, or this is going to be solely for power distribution?
Thanks for your question. Well, the plan is just for electric distribution, but the underlying software can theoretically be used for any kind of, I guess, connected network or graph type system. So theoretically, pipes, roads, drainage could also be done.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent question, and thanks for that. So also let me chime in. So I saw 2 things. So, and I think they're bundled under the question about tech stack. I'm not sure if you're willing to share, what's your underlying tech stack, and also what's the .jpkg file?
Tech stack. Alrighty. So on the back end is PostgreSQL database. There is a Postgres server in front of that, a very thin server. I'm not sure if you all know what Postgres is. It's basically a very thin layer that provides a REST API to your database. So you can shove all your functionality in the database the way it should be. On top of that, well, on the front end, the UI is built with Svelte. And then the mapping library currently is MapLibra. I was dabbling with Leaflet earlier, but MapLibra has good GL stuff, so performance is better with a lot of points on the map. And there is one called Gleo, I think GLEO, which is brand new, haven't even had a point release yet, but it looks promising. So if it is the case that it gets to a place where it's usable function-wise, I'll jump over to Gleo. What else is there? Yeah, so that's the actual software being used. I mentioned, yeah, PostgreSQL with all its goodness. And then if I were to go down everything, so it's PostgreSQL and PostGIS and a whole bunch of PostgreSQL extensions that enable me to get all this done.
Okay, question. Are you using, even though you said self for the front end and a couple other JavaScript library, are you using Node.js to do your backend logic, or that's also done on the front end, like the business logic?
Business logic is the way it should be in the database.
Okay, I figure I figured that you were going to say that. Interesting. All right, noted.
All right. One last, well, for me, I just have some questions so I can have the conversation flowing. In terms of technical challenges, did you encounter any? And if so, could you describe one? So maybe we could, if we should run into a similar technical challenge, we'll know how to solve it.
If we ever do a project like this.
Well,
One
that's
second,
true,
guys.
but I think, sure. Yes, I'm just asking that question because obviously we have persons from the community who may be new to development, and this may not be something top of mind, but maybe you're thinking, hey, how do I solve this particular problem? You might remember Rhys and his power distribution application, and you say, oh, I remembered how we solved this particular challenge. So over to you,
Sorry,
Rhys,
guys.
and yeah, so we just want to know if there were any technical hurdles or challenges you faced, and if so, how did you overcome them?
Yeah. The biggest technical challenge was learning to code JavaScript. I tried to hire people, but apparently coders in Jamaica, they're all well paid and have good jobs, and no one needs any side hustles. So no, aside from that, it was, aside from the one and two hiccups sometimes, and you have a little blocker where you just can't wrap your head around it. Then no, the biggest change actually was moving from, because I'm not a big fan of CoffeeScript. I think it's the best thing since sliced bread. But then I switched over to using TypeScript, mainly because mainly because the environment around, stuff like autocomplete and, that kind of thing was much better. Yeah, so there were not really many technical challenges aside from, as I said, getting a good grasp of JavaScript.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely, as you mentioned, that TypeScript is that superset of JavaScript, which offers type safety, which you'll find in a lot more. Well, it's becoming more popular to include it in popular frameworks. So definitely, React has embraced the idea of TypeScript. Whilst they don't have, or they always touted not having a convention around how you do things. I think they have adopted that convention of, hey, let us write strongly typed code, which gives us type safety. So that's as funny. I heard so another developer singing praises about TypeScript, and even for you coming from a CoffeeScript background. Mark Anthony Jason has questions, so I'll give Mark Anthony an opportunity to speak, and then Jason.
Okay. I have one more question for Rhys. So if there's a case where, okay, I have existing data in, first say, SQL Server database, and I wanted to import that into your Livewire software, is there any form of bridge that I could easily do that without, destructuring my database accidentally?
Yeah, man. That is the beauty of PostgreSQL and the myriad foreign data wrappers. You can connect directly from PostgreSQL to your SQL Server, Oracle, you name it, and pull data that way. So once you provide access, and if you are not trusting of people accessing your data, you can, or rather, you're not trusting of people having unfettered access to your data. You can provide a read-only account on the tables in question, and we're good to go.
Oh, so I'd have to do that on the database level and not the application level then?
On the database level and not the application level.
As in, I'm
In
saying
my world,
like
in my world, the database is the application. But yes, it'll be on the back end.
Okay.
All right, thanks for that, Mark. We can go ahead to Jason.
Okay. All right. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
All right, great. So this is more on a front-end question, because I heard that this project is built in Svelte. Now, this is the first Svelte project that I've seen. So I wanted to know, how is Svelte? If you could just give a basic overview of how it was working with Svelte to build this project.
All right, some context. I may have mentioned earlier that JavaScript and front-end stuff wasn't really my forte up until recently. Actually, it still isn't my forte. Yeah, let's be clear on that. I still regularly go to the CoffeeScript page, type in CoffeeScript, and get a compiled JavaScript and drop it into my code. Svelte. My first attempt at any kind of front-end work was when someone asked me to do an application for them and suggested React. And I took one look at React and said, this was too complex. It's ridiculous. I found something called Riot, which was very simple, very easy. So for example, what I could do in about 20 lines of Riot would have taken me like, I don't know, 30 or 40 lines of React. And I find Svelte is the same thing. So Svelte, to me, is very, very easy. It looks just like, I'm old school from like the LAMP days, meaning Linux, Apache, MySQL, that kind of stuff. So I'm used to just HTML, then CSS, and a sprinkling of JavaScript. So the fact that Svelte separates them cleanly is what attracted me to Svelte, and also Riot. But Svelte is much easier to use than Riot and way easier than React. So, and also I don't have much experience, as I mentioned, well, I'm mentioning now, outside of those two things. So I took one look at React, said no, found Riot, and then found Svelte. So I can't really compare it in terms of how it is to work with anything else, because I've only worked with Svelte and Riot.
All right. So I'll step in a bit on this question. So in retrospect, a framework is a framework and a language is a language. So almost anything that you can do, actually anything you can do in React, you can do in Svelte. Both are component based, but like we said, it's much easier to learn. It has a cleaner code. And just to get started, you can get started with it in minutes instead of like near to an hour, which what React would have felt like if you're building out a full system. It does three-way binding, like for example, the back end, the front end, and the business logic very well. Live updates with components and the connection between components is very easy, and it can be easily integrated and tied to it with TypeScript or whichever pre or post processor that you want. It's for me, I prefer it over React because React is unnecessarily complex. So if I should say that, I'm going to send you an application. Since you're in the community, I'm going to send you an application that was built in Svelte, built in React, built in Angular, because there's this library called Real application that write the same application in different languages, and then you can see that speed difference, and Svelte is faster to me than React, and it's faster to even to compile the code and deploy it. So you can see a real world comparison between the same application written in different framework, JavaScript framework. So I'll send that to you, and you can just take a look at it and make the judgment yourself.
All right. Thanks for that, Oshane. I know we can have a fruitful discussion on which avenue to go down. So we'll definitely try to have a session on that. At this point, Oshane, can I ask if you have any questions from the YouTube side? All right. No questions from the YouTube
question.
side. No question. Okay. All right. So let me take the opportunity to go ahead, Oshane.
Oh, someone was saying that they like Angular, which is quite interesting. That's it.
Okay. I will support that person. I also like Angular. I'm actually learning React. So at the end of the day, as you rightly said, Oshane, when it comes down to the framework, it comes down to developer choice. And again, there's an ease of learning and so forth. And again, we can have a discussion about this off here, or we can dedicate one of the demo days just to have a talk about, okay, what are the advantages and disadvantages of different frameworks, and put them to the test. But definitely, I want to thank Rhys at this point in time for sharing his idea. To be honest, I've met Rhys before. I think we met a while back around when we had a JPS hackathon. So I think that's where I remember you're from. So it's good to kind of reconnect in a forum like this. So if there are persons in the audience who would like to participate in any future demo days, please feel free to reach out to us via our email, community@caribbean.dev. and we'll love to have you on board to showcase what you have. Again, it doesn't have to be something that is fully fledged. Once you have an idea and a passion to develop, we'll definitely accommodate you and try to solicit feedback during the early stages of your development. We also want to take the opportunity to ask, I think I'd asked at the beginning of the session, for volunteers. We always need volunteers. There's a lot of work to be done. So definitely if you know you're good at marketing, research, or content curation, again, use the email to reach out to us, and we'll definitely have a seat for you at the table. We just want to also take the opportunity now to thank our sponsors, OSUB, Vertis Technology, and Particular Present Technology Limited. So again, thanks everybody for attending. Join the community, come out, speak up, speak about anything that is in your area as it relates to technology, and we'll definitely provide feedback, assistance, guidance as we normally do. All right, so if there's nothing else, thanks everybody again, and we'll definitely look forward to seeing you at our next demo day or any other event that we may have. Demo day is not the only event. We have other events that we may promote throughout the community, or we'll be the lead organizers and presenters of such. But again, thanks to our sponsors, thanks to the audience, and a big shout out to Rhys for giving it of his time and showing us his effort thus far to create an application that I do believe can help to help us with power cuts and assist JPS in planning for the future. Thanks again, everyone. Take care and do enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. An idea that I just thought of that you guys could possibly do for your next demo day is probably you guys could get a scenario and then compare the different scripts or like React versus what you guys are talking about, because I have no idea about them, but just compare, like one person does one, another person does another one, and another person does another one, and just people will actually see the route and what it takes to get to your end product. That sounds pretty interesting to me.
Yeah, it would be. Just as a caveat, we'll be here for like 2-3 days talking about which one is better and so forth. But definitely a presentation on all different thought processes and choices for front end would be pretty good. All right, so definitely thanks for that suggestion. Rhys, any closing remarks?
Yeah, it's definitely svelte. Nothing else.
Okay.
No, you can't tell me that.
All right.
No.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for your time. And we'll end there. O'Shane, you can end the live feed. And thank you guys for coming out. And we'll definitely have another opportunity to talk about the libraries that we'll use. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace.
Good night.